Good afternoon. Welcome to the EFSA webinar on the call for proposals on joint programming for risk assessment in vector-borne diseases. My name is Donna Lucas and I work in the finance unit here at EFSA, and I'm responsible for this grant call, along with my colleagues Frank Verdonk and Muriel Pesci, who will also present on this call with me today. Next slide, please. Before we start with the details about the call for proposals itself, I'd like to talk you through some of the housekeeping rules for the management of this webinar. I'd like to inform you that you are connected automatically to the audio broadcast, but it's a one-way audio broadcast, so there is no opportunity for you to ask questions orally. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions in writing, and those will be answered in 2 dedicated Q&A sessions, which will be held during the course of this webinar. The event will be in English, and we should also inform you that this event is being recorded, and the recording of the event will be published on the EFSA website alongside all the call documents. We would also like to inform you that after the event today, attendees will receive a link to a survey so that you can evaluate this EFSA event. In addition to that, any questions that you will raise at the event presentation, they will be written and published alongside the call documents, along with the answers that we give today. Next slide, please. I'd like to just outline the agenda for you for the webinar today. So after the short welcome and introduction of the colleagues who will be presenting, Frank Verdonk, the head of the BioHow unit, will present on the technical and scientific aspects of the call for joint programming for risk assessment in vector-borne diseases. After that presentation, there will be a dedicated question and answer session during which Frank will try to respond to scientific and technical questions which you may have about the call. After the end of that Q&A session, there will be a session presented by my colleague Muriel Pesci, which will outline how you apply to the call and how the grant agreement will eventually be implemented. After that presentation, both Muriel and I will try to answer any questions that you have about administrative aspects related to the call and applying to the call itself. Finally, there'll be time for closing remarks at the end of the session. With that, I give the floor to my colleague Frank Verdonk, who is going to outline key points about the call and the scientific and technical aspects.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your interest in this EFSA call on vector-borne diseases. And the context of this call is on first hand climate change, because climate change can lead to changes into vector habitats with the subsequent change in the dynamics of the vectors and also this disease agents that they can carry. And in parallel, we are also living in a world with increased globalization that's increasing the transmission and the rapid spread of the vectors and the pathogens that challenge also our preparedness capacity. And it's foreseen that these challenges will not cease. Instead, they will further increase as year after year we see more and more outbreaks of vector-borne diseases also happening in Europe. So the aim of this call is to facilitate the optimization of the capacity available at the European level in terms of risk assessment around vector-borne diseases, and in particular at national level and its interaction with EFSA. And you can here see the key points of the call on the slide. So I will go through them point by point, and the first one is the ambition to build long-term capacity and partnership for the risk assessment of vector-borne diseases in the European Union. When talking with the member states, we have seen that one member state is not so aware of what is happening in vector-borne diseases in the neighboring countries. And this is one of the challenges that we want to improve. For that, we will ask the beneficiary of this call afterwards as a first task to develop a roadmap of scientific topics to enhance support to the decision makers when dealing with challenges posed by vector-borne diseases in the next 4 years. It will also aim to enhance the coordination of activities to guarantee resource optimization and increase resilience against vector-borne diseases. We aim to address the knowledge gaps relevant to all the countries within the geographical scope of each of the lots, and I will explain that in one of the next slides. Assuring the timely dissemination of the outputs on vector-borne diseases, risk assessors and risk managers across the European Union. And last but not least, this call will include tasks that are related to scientific tasks, to project coordination and project management, to collaboration, and to knowledge dissemination. Next slide, please. Yeah. As you have probably already seen into the call, we are looking to work on a maximum of 25 listed diseases. But this will be up to the member states who will get involved into this call. And it are also the same 25 diseases that we are working on within EFSA and a mandate that we received from the European Commission and for which we will start at the end of this year to deliver our first scientific advice. Next slide, please. With this slide, I want to explain who can apply to the call. The first criterion is that your organization needs to be listed on what we call in EFSA the Article 36 list of organizations. The link of this list is available on the EFSA website, but it's also included into the call, and my colleague Muriel will also explain a little bit more on this afterwards. But then there is also a second important criteria that you need to fulfill before you can be eligible as a potential tenderer. And this is that your organization should be involved in performing a risk assessment of vector-borne diseases to inform risk managers at the national level. And here we will ask everybody who wants to apply for this call to provide as evidence a statement of your chief veterinary officer of your country. And this chief veterinary officer should then in this statement confirm that your organization is indeed performing risk assessment on vector-borne diseases to inform decision making at the national level, meaning the CVO or the chief scientific officer should work with you already today. The CVOs, they are aware of this process, so if you contact them in your country, they should be aware of it. Let's go then also to the geographical separation, because we have divided Europe into 4 different areas, because we expect that the questions on vector-borne diseases in the north and in the south of Europe might be a bit different, also from the east where you have no sea, and in the west where you have also sea. There might be different environments and different conditions for the vectors to survive, hence different epidemiological situation for the diseases. And you can see here all the different countries that can apply to the call, organized according to the 4 different geographical areas. This is a bit an artificial division, but it's based also on a division that we already used in previous EFSA scientific advice, as you can see on the reference of the slide. Very important to inform you is that when you are an organization located in one of those 4 geographical areas, you could also apply to 2, 3, even 4 different lots, and the lots reply or linked with the 4 geographical areas. Later on during the project, you will be asked also to talk with other countries within the same geographical area, because the aim is that the risk questions that you will work on are relevant for all the countries in that area. Also, when you are the beneficiary of one of the lots, you will be asked during the project to also get in touch with the beneficiaries of the 3 other areas to ensure that there is compatibility of the work that we will do in the 4 different areas, and preferably there is even synergistic work across those different geographical areas. Next slide, please. Here I am explaining to you what are the type of competencies that we ask you when applying to this call. First, your organization should already now carry out rapid or standard risk assessment in the field of vector-borne diseases. You should already do coordination among institutes that forming the consortium as well as with other member states in the same geographical area. You need to be able to explain how this coordination will be done. And also how the coordination with EFSA and with the 3 other consortia of the other areas will be done afterwards in the project. What are the type of tasks that we will ask? First is to develop a roadmap with the scientific topics that you in your area would like to work on in the next 4 years. That will be the first deliverable. And then we will look together with the beneficiaries and take specific topics that you describe in your roadmap. We will select some of these and then put it into a specific agreement that we will sign with you during the 4 years of the project. The deliverables that will be mainly reports that will be that we will ask you to produce, and the type of the tasks you can find a whole list described into the call. But this is just a list to be complete. It's not meant that a beneficiary should, by definition, complete all these tasks. No, it's just a list that we can pick from, because if a list is not included into the call, we cannot ask you afterwards to do such a task. But based on the roadmap, it can be that we ask you 3 times to do a certain type of task. And another task maybe we might never ask you to perform. With this, I conclude here the first part on the scientific and the technical explanation of the call, and we can go to the next slide. Back to you, Donna.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, we're now at the first Q&A session. So we will read out any questions that you post, and Frank will try to answer them. So Frank, I read the first question for you. Can a consortium be formed from partners from different lots if the VBD's interests multiple areas?
Yes, Donna, although maybe it's more a question for you and Muriel for the finance colleagues, but in my understanding, yes, you can create a consortium with countries out of even the 4 different lots and apply then with that consortium to each of the 4 lots. That's certainly a possibility. And I see you nodding, Donna, so seems to be the correct answer. Back to you, Donna.
Thank you, Frank. Yeah, I confirm that's the case, and Muriel will go into more detail in her presentation about applications for different lots. I see there are no other questions at the moment in the live event Q&A. Please feel free, participants, to post questions there if you have them, and we will look at them when we arrive at the second Q&A session. So we close this Q&A session for the moment in the absence of any other questions. And I'd now like to hand the floor to my colleague Muriel Pesci, who will present on the financial and administrative aspects.
Thank you very much, Donna, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Muriel Pesci, and I work in the EFSA Finance Unit dealing with grants and procurement procedures. So I'm here, as mentioned, to give a presentation on quick overview, let's say, on how to apply to the call and on the financial aspects of this grant. So the call is published in the grant page of the EFSA website. The link is at the top of the slide. Our webpage contains some general information on the EFSA grant, so you need to scroll down to see the list of our open grant calls. The title of this call is Joint Programming for Risk Assessment in Vector-Borne Diseases, and the reference is EUBA EFSA 2025 BioHub 04. So if you click on the title of the call from the EFSA website, you will be immediately redirected to the European Commission Funding and Tender portal. Next slide, please. Okay, so the page of the Funding and Tender portal, which you can see on the left of this slide, shows the 4 lots of this call. Once you click on the title of each lot, you are redirected to the main page of the Funding and Tender portal, which is common for the 4 lots, as the documents are the same for all lots. To find the document, you need to scroll down and to reach the section where the documents are published. This section is called Topping Condition and Documents. As you see, I've highlighted in the red box on the right-hand side of the slide. So under this section, you can finally find the list of the call documents. So the first document that is listed is the call for proposals. These cover both the scientific aspect of the call, meaning the objective, the deliverables, the timelines, as well as the procedural aspects, like, for example, the criteria you need in order to apply to the call or how to submit your proposal. The next document is the draft Framework Partnership Agreement. 4 Framework Partnership Agreements will be signed, 1 per lot, once the call will be awarded. And then the call will be implemented through specific agreements. So the draft specific agreement is also published with the call documents. Last document that you see in the list on the screen is the clarification document. This document are the questions that we received from the applicants about the call or from interested participants. These questions are publicly replied by EFSA. So in the clarification document, you can see the question and answer we receive from your side. When new clarification or when a corrigendum to the call is published, an announcement appears in the Funding and Tender portal. So please consult regularly the Funding and Portal page of the grant call, or you can also subscribe to the Funding and Tender portal to receive notifications. Next slide, please. So here we have an overview of the main details of the call. We have the call was launched on the 1st of October 2025, and the deadline to submit a proposal will be the 15th of January 2026. The overall budget for the 4 lots is 6 million, and the allocated budget per lot is 1.5 million. So the aim of this call is to sign 4 framework partnership agreements, 1 per each lot. The type of financing of this grant is called financing not linked to costs. What does this mean? In practice, it means that the paid amounts are based on predefined sums which are not linked to the actual cost of the project. So for you, it means that you don't need to co-finance the project, and you don't need to complete estimated budget or timesheet to record your work. The payment of the agreed sum is based on acceptance by EFSA of the deliverable that are due under a specific agreement. So this is a much simplified form of financing. The total duration of the framework partnership agreements is 4 years, 48 months, from the date of the countersignature of the agreement, and this period cannot be extended. Each specific agreement must be signed before the expiry of the FPA, and it can be implemented for a maximum of 6 months after the framework partnership agreement expiry date. So we have a 6 months of buffer before also the specific agreements have to be closed. In terms of application, consortia are not mandatory, but they are welcome to this call. They are recommended. The subcontracting is allowed, but only for non-core tasks. And this is a very important point because the core task for this project are the risk assessment tasks, and they are clearly defined in the task table of the call for proposal. So therefore, subcontracting is not permitted for the risk assessment tasks. Also, as mentioned earlier by Frank, please note that only Article 36 organization, as mentioned in red to the right-hand side of the slide, only Article 36 organization can apply to this call. In the slide, there is the hyperlink to this list of competent organizations that are designated by the member states. And also in the call, you will find this link. We can go to the next slide. Okay, this is about the use of the funding and tender opportunities portal. So the call is launched in the European Commission Funding and Tender Opportunities, which is the same tool that is used for call for tender and for call for proposal. The application are submitted electronically only. So are submitted through the portal. There's a section called Start Submission. The applicant submitting a proposal must be registered in the participant register, which is an online register of organization created by the European Commission for call for tenders or proposals. So in case you have previously applied to any call of the European Commission, you probably already have this participant register. Anyway, all the information on how to submit the proposal are available in the section 3, number 3 of the call for proposal. There are links to the page of the funding and tender portal. There is a guidance. So any let's say, detailed information can be found both in the call for proposal in section 3, but also in the funding and tender portal in a dedicated section called guidance and documents. A feature of this funding and tender opportunity portal is that there is a search for partners field. So this is an interesting feature, but please note that the funding and tender portal is not restricted to the Article 36 organization. So as only Article 36 organization can apply to this call, it's important that you ensure, in case you're searching for a partner and you find a possible partner in this tool, it's important that you check if this partner is or is not in the list of the Article 36 organization. So again, we repeat the link to the list of Article 36 organization also on these slides, to the right-hand side of this slide. Another way to look for partner could be to get in touch with the EFSA focal points of your country. So we put the link to the focal point contacts in the call for proposal documents. You will find it there, and you will be redirected to the EFSA webpage where this information can be found. For any request of clarification about the call, anything you're not sure about, please don't hesitate to email the email that I put here, efsaprocurement@efsa.europa.eu. Next slide, please. So this is a slide about the implementation, the financial implementation of these grants. So what happened? After submission of the proposal, the applications are evaluated by EFSA, as described in section 2 of the call for proposal, and then hopefully 4 grants will be awarded. The 4 framework partnership agreements will be implemented through specific agreement for each lot. So the idea is to sign the first specific agreement straight after the signature of the framework partnership agreement, still in 2026. And after the delivery of the roadmap developed under the specific agreement 1, EFSA will proceed to sign the second specific agreement. This second specific agreement will be a duration of 2 years, and the precise value will be based on the number of risk assessments and also on other tasks that will be defined on the roadmap. So the remaining budget will be then awarded in future specific agreements, and this will be based on the number and on the type of risk assessment to be performed, and also on other tasks, because the call has got a long list of tasks that are defined in the call for proposal documents. Important to be mentioned that upon signature of each specific agreement, there will be a pre-financing payment of 40% of the specific agreement amount. If the duration of the specific agreement is longer than 12 months, then there will be also an interim payment. Otherwise, you will go only at the balance payment. If the duration is shorter than 12 months, there will be a balance payment, and the balance payment is obviously linked to the completion and the approval by EFSA of all the deliverables foreseen under the specific agreement. This is all from my side, from the financial implementation side. I can pass the floor to Donna. Thank you.
Thank you, Muriel. We now arrive at the second question and answer session. We see that the published questions have increased, and we have a mix of ones that are related to the administrative and financial aspects of the call, which I will now try to cover with Muriel. So we will tackle those first, and then we will circle back and look at some of the scientific and technical aspects of the call, where I see there are now more questions on that, so we will involve Frank at that stage. So I tried to read through one by one of the questions that have been raised. So the first one for this session that I'm looking at is subcontracting with organisations and or experts from the organisation which are not included in the Article 36 list possible? Yes, as Muriel mentioned in the presentation, it is possible to subcontract tasks to an organisation which is not on the Article 36 list. However, the tasks which are subcontracted must not be core tasks under the grant agreement. So there we would need to see in your proposal the tasks that you are proposing to subcontract, and EFSA during the evaluation of the proposals will consider whether that is a core task or not. The next question, which relates to administrative and financial aspects of the call, is it allowed to use the budget to buy equipment and consumables and payment for human resources? Now, Muriel mentioned during her presentation that this grant is formulated on the basis of financing not linked to costs. So many of you who are familiar with more traditional grant calls of the Commission may have experienced putting together an estimated budget where you have to define all the different categories of costs that you will be claiming for. So that could be purchase of equipment, consumables, and indeed staff costs. This form of grant is different. So that financing not linked to cost form of grant does not require the preparation of an estimated budget, nor the individual identification of each of the costs that will be incurred by the organisations carrying out the work. You will be required to produce deliverables which are defined in each specific agreement, and if those deliverables are completed to the level of quality which is defined in the specifications, then the payment of the total amount for that specific agreement will be made without the need for you to produce evidence, receipts, payslips to evidence those costs. The next question, which is relevant to administrative and financial aspects, relates to the deadline for the call. So the question is, setting up consortia to respond to the call while considering the terms of interaction at the national level, possible participation in different zones, and drafting the proposal takes a lot of time. Mid-January seems extremely ambitious. Would it be possible to extend the deadline for submitting proposals? This seems really necessary in order to develop high quality proposals. EFSA has set a deadline of mid-January, indeed, for submission of proposals. The call has been open since the start of October, so a significant period for the preparation and submission of proposals. However, without committing ourselves to extending the deadline, EFSA does review periodically the questions that we receive about the call during the period that the call is open, and also requests about the need for an extension of the deadline. So this is only something that we would review at a later stage in late December or early January, based on information that we've received during this period that the call is open. It doesn't happen very frequently that the deadline is extended, but it is a possibility for EFSA to consider deadline extension. If a deadline extension takes place, that will be published through the EU funding and tenders portal. The next question, which we will take in the administrative and financial aspects of the call, relates to what kind of information do we have to give in the proposal regarding the budget setup. This refers back to not the previous question, but the one before, about the costs that are eligible. Being a financing not linked to cost grant, we do not require you to submit in your proposals any estimated budgets to justify the costs that you will incur during the implementation of the agreement. We have another question here related to consortium and applying for lots. In case the same consortium wants to apply for more lots, shall all the documents be replicated and submitted for each lot? I confirm yes, we have to receive one proposal for each lot that you apply for. This may mean that you have to duplicate some of the documentation, but each lot will be evaluated independently on its merits. So for this reason, we have to receive individual applications for each lot from sole applicants who may be applying alone, or from the consortium that applies. I think that is the full list of questions which relate to administrative and financial aspects. So now, Frank, I'm going to call upon you to answer some of the questions that relate to the scientific and technical aspects. I'll read through each question and hopefully you'll be ready to answer these. So the first question we've received is, which role plays capacity building in the member state for performing VBD risk assessment? Would trainings for experts from all member states be eligible or planned?
Yeah, thank you, Donna. I can indeed take this question. Capacity building is very important in this call, because one of the reasons for us to launch this call was exactly the observation that I mentioned before, that we noticed that one member state is doing risk assessment on vector-borne diseases, but they have no idea what is the risk assessment on the same or other vector-borne diseases that is happening in neighboring countries. So this is one of the key aspects that we would like to improve. So yes, capacity building, very important in this call. And then specifically the question if trainings for experts from all the member states would be eligible. Yeah, that can be, but I would like to go back maybe a bit to how the call is organized, and also the question on the deadline. So at this stage, we ask you to come with an explanation on how you build your consortium. Nothing yet on the scientific part. It's only afterwards, when the grant will be awarded, when the beneficiaries are known, then they will start for each of their area to develop drafting the roadmap for the next 4 years to work on. And here, if you read the call, we have seen that there was a first deliverable of the draft roadmap report after 4 months of signing the first specific agreement. And at that point, we will compare the different draft roadmaps of the 4 different geographic areas, and also get in touch with the beneficiaries to have a discussion to ensure that there is alignment and where possible synergy of the different draft roadmaps. And then we still have 1 month before coming to the final roadmap to see if what is proposed is applicable or not. So at that moment, if there is one area that suggests to do a training relevant to all the area of the EU, we will ask the 3 other areas if they agree that the topics of the training are also relevant for them. If that will be confirmed, then indeed that could be something that can stay into the final roadmap. I hope I clarified this question. Back to you, Donna.
Thank you, Frank. A next question that we have, which I would hope you can help us with. Should all 25 diseases be covered by at least one of the area by the end?
No, this is not a requirement. The list of the 25 diseases is just to give you the maximum type of diseases or list of diseases that you can work on. But in the roadmap, you can just decide to work only on 1 or 2 or 5, up to what are the needs of the countries in a geographical area. So the 25 is the maximum, but it's up to you and the countries to decide what is relevant to you to cover or not. Back to you, Donna.
Thank you. A next question that we have for you. Can we have access to the preliminary assessment of existing tools and ongoing research dedicated to VBDs in the EU that is mentioned in the call, EFSA with stakeholders, on page 7 of the call? Over to you, Frank.
Thank you, Donna. Yes, I think we can check with our EFSA journal colleagues if there is some work needed to be done on the editorial aspect, but then once it's ready, and I think that can be done soon probably, we can publish it, and then back to you, Donna, to see exactly where, if we can then provide a link into the call site, but maybe you can answer this aspect better than I can.
Yeah, just to supplement that, all the questions that we are replying to today, we will reply to also in writing, and they will be published alongside all the call documents on the EU Funding and Tenders portal. So in relation to that preliminary assessment of existing tools, which is mentioned on page 7 of the call, we should be able to get you a link to that material. The next question that we have on the list to be dealt with is something about experts in the call. So Frank, I will raise this question to you. Please clarify the situation. In the call, I can see that only 4 experts are to be included, of course, with their respective teams. So how are the European countries divided into uneven groups, e.g. 6 countries in 2 lots? And the northern lot is somehow 9 countries. I would consider this as a bit unfairness, raising more competition. Frank?
Yes, thank you also for this question. I'm just looking here in the call. Yeah, we require to have a team of experts with 4 different profiles, but we also say several profiles can be covered by the same person if you have arguments to do so. So I don't think we are very prescriptive on saying that it should be 4, it can be less, but we also leave the door open to you on proposals. You can even suggest more experts to get involved if you would like to. On the separation of the different geographical areas, this is done on previous scientific work that already was published by EFSA before, and it's based on areas where we believe questions on vector-borne disease risk assessment will be more or less the same, because the conditions for the vectors and for the diseases to happen would be similar. Competition, I think competition is also there across the different lots. So that argument I don't really support. Back to you, Donna.
Thank you, Frank. Another question for you regarding the role of the member states. So which role would the member states have which do not participate in a consortium? How would the specific conditions for vector-borne diseases in this country be considered in this call? Frank, can you reply to that question?
Sure, Dana, I can also take this question. This will be a discussion again after signing of the first specific contract, when the beneficiaries will work on the draft roadmap. It's at that moment that the beneficiary countries should liaise with the other countries in their respective area to get input on what are relevant risk assessment questions, also to cover the needs of those areas. So it's at that moment that this will be done. Afterwards, when risk assessments will be done, the beneficiaries will also need to ensure that the results of their work need to be distributed, communicated back to all the countries within their specific area. But again, this is after signing of specific contracts. It's not something that needs to be covered at this moment. Back to you, Donna.
Thank you. And another question for you. Does EFSA expect some field activities in the roadmap or just table exercises? And which would be the level of involvement of the national risk managers? Frank?
Yes, thank you, Donna. This call focuses on the risk assessment. It's not the ambition to be a research call. Also, the specific contracts that we have in mind to launch, probably the maximum duration of the specific contracts will be around 2 years. So I expect it might be difficult to really do field activities. There are other calls and initiatives probably that can be used for this. So here the focus will probably be more on table exercises, what we normally do, work with existing data and use that for risk assessment. The level of involvement of the national risk managers. So as I explained, the CVOs, the Chief Veterinary Officer, need to submit a statement confirming that your organization is already doing now risk assessment on vector-borne diseases, that is working or giving scientific advice to them at national level. So that is for sure a formal involvement of the CVOs at that moment. Afterwards, when you develop the roadmap, you need to focus on risk assessment questions that are relevant for your national risk managers. But then afterwards, once the roadmap is developed, it's up to the risk assessors to do the work. And then when you have the results, the communication will go back to risk assessors in the community, but hopefully also to the risk managers, because the idea is that they also benefit from the scientific advice that will be generated via the work of this call. I hope this clarifies. Back to you, Donna.
Thank you, Frank. I have a couple of questions which I will be able to reply to, which have just come through. If one institution may be involved in more than one lot. Okay, so this was a question that we addressed earlier. So yes, an institution may be involved in more than one lot. Organisations are free to apply to one or more lots, and you may also apply for one lot in one consortium and maybe in another lot in a different consortium with different partners. So that's also feasible. Just looking down the list of the remaining questions which have come through. I come back to you, Frank, for the remaining questions. So can all member states participate in each lot, having regard that we still need to communicate between us?
Yes, Donna, this is really up to the organizations within the countries that they can discuss among themselves how to create consortia or not. So there is no limitation from one organization to apply for multiple lots, as we already explained. So I think it's really up to them. We are in EFSA not in a position to facilitate this discussion, to steer this discussion. This is really up to the organizations themselves to discuss. Back to you.
Thank you. Another question for you, Frank. We fail to see how the joint programming is implemented if consortia are not mandatory. What joint programming can be done by a single organisation? Frank, can you help with that question?
Sure, Donna. It's theoretically possible that one organization applies for all the 4 different calls, has the best proposal and will be awarded. And then it's indeed one organization that is driving the full project. However, I'm not sure that this will be a realistic scenario. Up to that, I think we are dependent on what are the calls, the tenders that we will receive, and it's up to you organizations to apply. Not sure if you can add anything else on this, Donna.
Yeah, only to add that it's quite rare that EFSA imposes the formation of consortium in our grant agreements. It does happen occasionally, but for this particular call, we decided not to make it a mandatory requirement. But as Frank said, it's up to the organisations to decide how best to meet the requirements of the call and who to partner up with, if indeed to partner for this call for proposals. The next question that we have on the list, which I think I can address, is the organisation leading the consortium funded by Work Package 4? Because this is a financing not linked to cost grant, we aren't looking specifically at the costs per work package, and we're not looking specifically at the costs related to costs of the consortium leader or those who are part of the consortium. So whilst Work Package 4 is related to coordination and management, it would be true to say that yes, in part, the consortium who is the partner who is leading the consortium does get some funding under that work package. It's for the consortium as a whole to agree amongst themselves with the total amount of money for each specific agreement, how they will divide that up amongst the various partners that they're working with. So there is no requirement to demonstrate the actual costs of each partner. These need to be agreed upfront amongst you in your consortium. I come on to one more question to put back to Frank. So following on from what Frank just mentioned, am I correct in understanding that the scientific proposal should be based solely on the presentation of the consortium members, their experience and the interactions planned between them and with EFSA?
Yes, I'm specifically looking at here the call for proposals. You can see that under point 2.5 award criteria applicable for each lot. There you can see how we will evaluate the proposals that we will get. So it's very important that you look at these and understand what you need to provide as material in the first round when you submit your tender. It's correct that it's mainly about how you create your consortium, how you will work with each other and the interaction with EFSA, but also give an idea how this will help the capacity building, boost the scientific coordination regarding risk assessment in vector-borne diseases compared to the situation that is there at the current moment. This is what we will evaluate. It's only after signature of the contract that then we will ask you to work on this roadmap that I already mentioned, and then we ask you to go really more into the scientific topics. So yes, that is a clear separation, but please check page 26 of the call to really be sure what you really need to submit in your tender. Back to you, Donna.
Thank you, Frank. We have now gone through the full list of questions. I don't believe there are any questions that are pending. As we said previously, all the questions which were raised today and all the answers that we have given will be documented in writing and published on the EU Funding and Tenders portal alongside all the other call documents. Also, the recording of this session will be published via a link on the EFSA website. If we could move to the next slide, please. So we are almost at the close of the webinar today. I'd like to thank the speakers, Frank and Muriel, for their contributions, and also thank the technical staff behind the scenes who have been supporting this webinar. I'd also very much like to thank the audience for attending today. It's very reassuring to see that there is a lot of interest in this call, and we hope that this webinar has been informative for you. In the event that you would have further questions, please remember that these can be submitted at any time in writing through the EU Funding and Tenders portal. The video recording of the event today, the slides that we have shown, and also the Q&A will also be published shortly on the EU Funding and Tenders portal. All that remains is for me to ask you to very kindly fill out the satisfaction survey that you will receive a link to shortly, which will allow you to give feedback on the event and will enable EFSA to improve webinars like this for the future calls that we have. So thank you very much for your attendance today, and we hope to receive some proposals from you for this call in due course.